We may be nearing the end of the El Chapo trial. The prosecution is rested, and the defense plans to call just 2 witnesses to the stand. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman will not be one of those witnesses. He did speak to the court for the first time to tell the judge he won't be taking the stand.
Meanwhile, Alejandro Ida, I think, who plays El Chapo in the TV show Narcos, was at the trial yesterday, and he actually spoke to reporters as he left.
When he came out, we stood up, and it was just right there. Like, that's the man, that's Senor Guzman. And suddenly, the lawyers came to him and said, oh, that's Alejandro Ida, who is portraying you in Narcos Mexico. And he looked at me, waved at me, and I was shaking in a way, inside I was, I didn't know what to do. I just paid in my respect to saying, like, through the distance. And it was a very surreal moment, I have to be honest, looking, at his eyes.
Oh my gosh, I bet.
I hope it's just a wave. You don't want him to do like the finger.
or the neck split. Yeah. Anyways, closing arguments are scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday. A verdict could come as early as next week. So CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman is joining us now to talk all things El Chapo. So we know you love Narcos, so that must have been a thrill to see him.
I only wish I was there. I think I tweeted, oh no, I wish I were there. I do love this series, Narcos. You have to remember that Narcos Mexico, which is the 4th year of Narcos, because we start way back in Colombia with Pablo Escobar, that when you get to Narcos Mexico, you get to understand how the Sinaloa drug cartel came into being. And when we first meet El Chapo, he is a driver, and he is about to be killed, and the decision is made by the person who founds the Sinaloa drug cartel not to kill him, and then says to him as he's down on the ground with his hands by his head, thinking he's going to die, and what is your name? And he says, Chapo. And so that's how we meet him. We just see a little of him this year because we're back in the 80s in the series Narcos Mexico. I commend everyone who is interested in this trial to watch Narcos Mexico. And obviously, from the actors' comments, we are going to have a sequel where we'll probably get all the way up to the present day. And the present day in court is at 3:40 p.m. yesterday. The prosecution said they rest.
So why, I understand why a lawyer would say, hey, I don't want you on the stand, but could there be a benefit at all from El Chapo taking the stand?
Well, if I were the lawyer in this case, there would be no way that he would take the stand while I were representing him. And if he decided on his own that he had some need to tell his story, no, I wouldn't be gone, but I would put it on the record outside the presence of the jury that obviously it is the defendant's right and only the defendant's right to decide to take the witness stand, but it was being done over my objection. I think that there is no benefit to him beyond the fact of his wanting to tell it his way and really give an autobiographical account of what the Sinaloa drug cartel is and was, and talk himself smack into a conviction. There is no way that he could say, with all of these witnesses against him, by the way, the evidence is overwhelming against him, that he could say that everyone is a liar and the DEA is wrong and the FBI is wrong, and somehow it really wasn't him on the wiretaps and it wasn't him on the encrypted messages. It's preposterous for him to be able to deny. So the only thing he could do was become a braggart and say, this is my story.
Couldn't he also, though, implicate, we've heard testimony about politicians, the president of Mexico, bags of money, trucks of money. Couldn't he say, listen, it's sort of like Michael Corleone in The Godfather 2 saying, I own shares in AT&T, and I'm an upstanding businessman who deals with people who are just as corrupt as I am.
Well, I think that's a good point, Vlad, because as you may or may not remember, some of our viewers will remember, back in 2013, the Whitey Bulger case, which I had covered from beginning to end, he was one of the most well-known racketeers in Boston and then the nation because he was on the lam for over a decade. And people waited, including me, in the courtroom with bated breath as to whether or not Whitey was going to take the witness stand. And as he got up to speak, we all went, oh, please, yes, yes, yes. And why? Because we wanted to hear about the corruption of the government. And when he said he would not testify, we were all deflated like a balloon because only Whitey Bulger could really tell the story of which agents he had corrupted, if any, within the FBI. Here, one of the things we will never know, at least I think we will never know, but not during this trial, is who was corrupted in the United States of America. We've learned a lot about who was corrupted in Colombia, in Ecuador, in Mexico, but we haven't really heard about who was corrupted in the U.S. And there can be no doubt from anyone who has covered or uncovered the doings of the Sinaloa drug cartel that corruption extended into the United States government. And we'd all like to know who and when, but we're not finding out in this trial.
So the jury has heard an awful lot of stuff. They've heard about the breakdown of the business and the numbers and the IT guy who flipped and the mistress and running through the tunnels, blah, blah, blah.
The hydraulic bathtub.
They got to go through all of this stuff, right? How long do you think it will take them to reach a verdict?
Well, there's one of two ways they could do this. As you may recall, in the O.J. Simpson case, they sat for the better part of 9 months hearing testimony, but they knew what they felt, and so the jury was only out for 4 hours. Could they have gone through all of the evidence in 4 hours? Absolutely not. In this case, one of the issues is the RICO count, the racketeering count, which is the life imprisonment running a corrupt criminal enterprise. And underneath the RICO count are a series of tens upon tens upon tens of violations, specific violations on specific dates. And in order to convict of RICO, you must convict of a minimum of 2 predicate acts, is what we call it in the law, meaning you have to check the box that you believe beyond a reasonable doubt at least 2 of these events. And jurors tend to take their oath very seriously, and they'll, I believe, go through all of the predicate acts and say yes or no. I predict there is a guilty verdict across the board in this case. I never predict verdicts, never, but I have rarely seen a case that has this much evidence. They go out on Friday. You might get a verdict on Friday or Monday, but if they're going to do their job, it's going to take them a few days.
All right.
Well, I'm going to miss these regular visits by you, though.
Well, there's the Roger Stone, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff we're going to be talking about.
Crime.
There's always crime. Rikki, sadly, but yes, it is true. Rikki, thank you very much.